Hello and welcome to another edition of Economic Forum, where we discuss various issues affecting our economy in Zimbabwe, be it in the area of agriculture, tourism, religion, culture, and many different aspects. And today we are discussing the banking sector, in particular the gold coins. My name is John Masugu. On the 25th of July, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, RBZ, introduced gold coins, and soon after that the response was favorable according to the RBZ governor, Dr. John Manguja. Many other comments have come up in the press, and today we want to discuss further how the gold coins are doing in the economy of Zimbabwe, because the main purpose was to arrest runaway inflation. And we've invited Mishek Ugaro, who is the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society. Mishek, welcome to the program.
Thank you, John, for having me.
Yes.
And hello to all the viewers of this program. Thanks. I'm pleased to be here.
Maybe the first thing is just a quick reminder why we had the introduction of the gold coins in the first place.
Okay. I think that authorities want to, as you rightly pointed out, control inflation. And in Zimbabwe, we have a peculiar situation where the inflation rate is dependent on the exchange rate of our local currency, because we have a situation where, as the local currency is paid out to many economic agents, they run to buy the US dollar to preserve value. So that you'll note that if I'm to give you a background, in 2020, the central bank introduced the foreign currency auction system as a way of price discovery, so that the market would really be able to price goods and services in a transparent manner. That worked very well, and it actually contained the parallel exchange rate. And we saw the premium between the parallel exchange rate and the official rate decline. And by so doing, inflation actually came down from a high in 2020, July 2020 of 830%. It came down to last year, about August, about 60%. So there was a consistent decline. And in fact, the projections to the end of last year was supposed to be below 30%. However, what happened around August, September 2021 is that the exchange rate started running away again. What had happened, there are several explanations. Chief of that is that while the authorities, by authorities I mean the monetary authorities, the central bank, was controlling money supply, indeed they were controlling it because reserve money targeting consistently was being reduced. As we speak, target money growth is 0%. That's reserve money. But what was happening is there was monetary expansion through the growth of what is called broad money. Chiefly, and I'll be specific, the government is heavily involved in infrastructural development, which is something splendid. It's something they have to do. It's something we need. So we have a unique situation where by doing the right thing, developing infrastructure for the country, which we need for development, it created money supply, broad money supply growth, which then created pressure on the exchange rate, and that exchange rate created pressure on inflation. And then inflation started running away. When it was declining to 60%, it started going up. And as we speak, it's now above 200%.
Well, thank you very much for
background.
that background. Now, let's go to how the gold coins were received. I've just said that the governor himself was upbeat about it, saying that it was favorable, while different people had different views, including that they needed smaller denominations and so forth. Just tell us about an overview of how the gold coins were received by different sectors.
Okay, so in response to that situation which I just described, there was need to create an avenue for economic agents to preserve value of the money that they are being paid. And so basically it's a question of either US dollar or something in Zimbabwe that can make value, and the best way is the gold coin. This is a common
So that
practice.
will remain with the Zimbabwean currency and not the US dollar or the multi-currency.
Exactly. So the ultimate goal is over. The Honorable Minister of Finance has explained this. The ultimate goal is eventually to revert back to monocurrency, which will be the Zim dollar, a stable Zim dollar. But it takes time to get to that stage. So the current process now is at least to move pressure from demanding US dollar to an alternative asset, which is well known for preserving value, and that asset is gold. So the central bank, as monetary authorities or through the Monetary Policy Committee, found it prudent to introduce the gold coin, which is a common practice in many economies. South Africa next door has got Krugerrand, which is a gold coin. There are many other countries in the world that do that. So I would say that that is a good move. And to your question, I think that, I don't know if you have not noticed that, but we know that the parallel rate is actually shaded off. It has come down a bit from about 1,900 to 1,000 to now about between 700 and 800 since the introduction of the gold coin.
Or even lower than that in some instances. I heard the Deputy Minister of Finance actually addressing Senate about that aspect, that you can notice that the parallel rates are going down.
That's correct. Not only that, there's more that is visible, because we normally want to see, to talk about things that are felt on the ground. You'll see that some prices of some items on the retail shops are coming down. The prices of soft drinks, for example, the price of cooking oil, for example, they've definitely come down from about $5, $6 to about $3, even $2 in some instances. So also, you'll find that the month-on-month inflation has come down by 10 basis points. So I think that the gold coin has had that impact. So the outcry was that contractors were being paid local currency, which they were quickly exchanging for US dollars in order to preserve value. But I believe...
We'll continue with that, Mishek, in our second segment. That's Mishek Ugaro. Our guest today is the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society. And today we are discussing gold coins, how they've been accepted by the public, how they've been received, and what impact they are making. We're also going to be looking at what opportunities there are with the arrival of the gold coins. So join us in the second segment of Economic Forum. We are now in the second segment of Economic Forum, where today we are discussing gold coins. After being introduced on the 25th of July, how are they doing? What is their impact? And what is the impact on inflation as well as the parallel market, which was skyrocketing? And our guest to discuss all those things is Mishek Ugaro, who is the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society. You were just explaining how some of these companies involved in infrastructural development were trying to restore value, and as a result, it was very, very difficult before the advent of the gold coins. Now, how is that helping them, and also how do we go forward?
It is obviously assisting, because you can see the movement of the exchange rate. That's actually a sign that demand is moved away from the dollar to the gold coin, which is what it should be. It was, I can't blame the contractors or even our own people who had lots of RTGS values for wanting to store value. So it is a natural behavior. As rational economic beings, they would do that. So we think that this is working, and now we look forward to how agents can take advantage, because there are so many opportunities that arise out of that move.
In fact, yes. Before you talk about the opportunities, I, for one, I've never seen a gold coin, and we're just discussing with you. You've never seen one, including my colleagues here. Now, how will those opportunities arise? Will they leave us out? Will they be discriminatory and only benefit those who are going to have access to the gold coins?
Yes, I like that question, because I will tell you why I haven't seen a gold coin. It's simply because I haven't looked. So I'm not sure whether everybody has looked, that has not seen it has looked. But I take note, and this was an outcry, that the amount, the cost for each gold coin is high, because it is pure gold. It's 18 karat, and it's an ounce. The current price of gold per ounce is about $1,800, $1,700. So or in RTGS equivalent, it's about 850 at the official rate. At the parallel rate, is about double that. So for a person on the street to be able to access the gold coin, that definitely is a problem. And then
is it a problem for the time being?
It's a challenge.
Or forever? It
is not. Why I'm saying, let me actually rephrase that. It is seen as a problem, because I have a view that it's actually not a problem or a challenge, and I'll explain why. So these gold coins were introduced at an ounce to at least sway demand from the bigger holders of RTGS into the gold, away from the gold coin, and thereby control or affect the exchange rate. The outcry, two main outcries were, one, this one which you just talked about, it's not accessible to the man on the street. And as you have said, you have not seen it. I've also not seen it, but simply I've not looked. If I'm to be honest, I've not searched for it. I'm sure if I search, I'll find it. But if I find it, I may not be able to afford it, which brings us to the second question. So was it introduced for only the rich and the big corporates? The other aspect is that the price at which it is accessible in RTGS is about half the price, the parallel rate price. So there is, or appears to be, an arbitrage window which will allow those with money to further make money by playing on that arbitrage. But my view is that, and I think the authorities are being proved right, they had to move like this in order to create traction. They have to create demand for the gold coin from those with huge balances of funds. And that, in my view, when I look at it deeply, that arbitrage is actually an incentive for the gold coin to be bought, which is why they're scarce, which is why you can't see them. So they are being issued, but they are quickly being taken.
Mishek, while we're there, there's also been an outcry for the denominations to be lowered. So they are still being lowered for the corporates as well as those who have got the money.
What will then happen is, us as economic agents are supposed to come up with ways and be innovative. And I would like to talk a bit about my colleagues, my brothers and sisters in the banking sector. I as a banker myself, am wondering why our banks are not looking at this as an opportunity. For example, banks should, in my view, create unit trusts that ride the gold coin. So the price of 1,800 shouldn't really matter. If banks were innovative and created unit trusts, just as one product, for example, which would then make it accessible to the men on the street, with your 2,000 bond or 2,000 RTGs, you can buy a unit trust or a unit of it. However, there is that outcry that this market is demanding that they be divisible from the one huge coin. And hopefully authorities will consider maybe making a quarter coin, something like a quarter coin available, or a half coin available, which can then be bought. But even a quarter coin will still be expensive for my grandmother, but she can buy a unit trust from a bank.
And while the authorities did not compartmentalize, to say we're giving such a percentage, so and so and so forth, how are the SMEs responding to that?
I'm sure that the statistics we have right now shows that the gold coins are being bought in RTGS. The majority of it, above 80%, is in RTGS. So while statistics have not been made available by the authorities, I suspect that there is a lot of play from the SMEs as well, given that a lot of the purchases are in RTGS. So I expect that they are there, although I acknowledge, as I said, that the amount of 1,800 for one coin is rather out of reach, maybe for most SMEs.
Yes, I'll stop you there. That's Mishek Ugaro, the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society. He's our guest today on Economic Forum, where we are discussing how the gold coins are faring. Whether you have received them or you have seen them, according to Mishek here, it does not matter. They are having an impact on our economy, which is why the parallel market rates are coming down or are tumbling down. So join us in the third and final segment of Economic Forum. This is the third and final segment of today's Economic Forum, where we are discussing gold coins. The gold coins are here, and also here is the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society, Mishek Ugaro, who has been telling us about the impact and the receipt of the gold coins so far. Where do we go from here, Mishek?
Yes, I think I spoke about the arbitrage window, which I mentioned. And if you look at the performance of the parallel exchange rate, which is coming down, it basically means, and this is why I said maybe the authorities have scored a good point, because it means the arbitrage window will be or is going to be traded away. So whilst they've created traction to get the gold coin onto the market and rolling, a continuous trading of that will ultimately trade away the arbitrage window. So the authorities, and I think my also expectation, is stabilization ultimately of the exchange rate. Once the exchange rate is stabilized, inflation will be stabilized, and then we hopefully, if you look at the goals of the National Development Strategy 1, which is in tandem with the period over which we are using the dual currency system. If you look at all policies now that have been put in place, the dual currency, the gold coin, which are all concurrently running throughout the period of NDS1, and you then consider the ultimate goal, which I personally do agree with, of eventually using only our local currency. So the idea is to stabilize the currencies to a point where we'll be comfortable to utilize our local currency.
So this means that that yearning, that cry that has been there, that let's earn our salaries in US dollars and so forth, and government has always said we want to stabilize. So those calls are going to get low and low?
I think so. Currently, the calls are kind of justified because we are in a dual currency. So I think Labour is saying it's dual, so let's also have dual currency salaries, which makes sense. But like you rightly say, over the period of the NDS1, eventually we should be gradually shifting to the Zim dollar, which will make us export competitive. So when you look at it, actually, the Zim dollar has got a lot of assets behind it. But I think the issue is we lack trust in our own currency. We trust the word of the Federal Reserve against the word of our central bank. But they've done well by introducing the gold coin, is to try and increase that confidence. Once our local currency is stabilized, then confidence will grow.
You're talking about arbitrage. Any other risks that may be there in the use of gold coins? maybe some trading, what may seem like gold coins, yet they are not, and all those things. People have to be careful.
Yes, okay. The gold coin comes with rules and processes or procedures. So you have, the starting point is you have to hold it for at least 180 days, beyond after which you can trade it away. So when it is issued to you, it's personally issued to you. You can take it home. You can trade with it. You can buy with it. You can travel with it. It's allowed. Your holding period is 180 days. It's issued in your name. Your bank or the issuer of the coin to yourself will have to really identify you.
We did mention the SMEs, and we forgot to mention the rural folk. Are they in all these gold coins? Is it something they are ever going to see in their lifetime?
Unfortunately, at this stage, not yet. But hopefully, as the idea or the narrative of the gold coin spreads, then they can access. As I said, the issue of the access at the moment is still the price. So the amounts are still not accessible.
You can say more about investment opportunities with the advent of the gold coins.
Yes. Remember, we said store of value. So economic agents that are in business were not willing to do business and hold their savings for future investment in the local currency. So now they can store that value, their profits, they can store their profits in the gold coin and then undo it or unwind it at the point of investment. So this should really, basically by growing savings in the country, that should then enable more investment. In fact, if you allow me, you see, why I'm very passionate about the banks, unfortunately today I have banks.
Because we're a bank.
We want to create a savings culture. So today, if you put your money in the bank, all you get are charges, and there's no growth. In the past, my grandmother would say, put money in the bank because it grows. But today, if you put your money today in the bank, it doesn't grow. In fact, the banks are making a huge margin. You can literally drive a bus between their lending rate and their deposit rate. So whilst the authorities are trying all their cane, we want to create this savings culture. So by issuing the gold coin, they've done what they have to do. The rest is with us now to try and promote the savings culture through the gold coin.
As we conclude, Mishek, it was not only the gold coins measure that was introduced by the authorities, that is the ministry as well as RBZ. There were other measures. Have they all been overtaken by the gold coins?
No, I wouldn't say. The gold coin is complementary to those measures. And there are more measures coming in. We have seen statements from the Minister of Finance, for example, in terms of how we've seen, for example, the creation of what they call the Money for Value Committee, which is going to be looking at, re-looking at contracts, reviewing them and how money is being paid out, because that has really been a source of money expansion, which has created the pressure on the exchange rate. So these policies are complementary.
Yes. Well, Mishek, I would like to thank you very much for coming on to Economic Forum. That's Mishek Ugaro, who is the Vice President of the Zimbabwe Economic Society, who was our guest today talking about gold coins. This is Economic Forum, and if you would like to get in touch with us, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on your screen. And you can also follow us on the different platforms that are also indicating on your screen. If you miss some of the episodes, you can actually watch them on our YouTube channel, which is Economic Forum Zimbabwe. So on behalf of Mishek Ugaro, our guest, as well as the production crew, this is John Masuku.